everyone, thanks for visiting my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Carol, the Thrifty Chic Housewife. If you enjoy the content that you find here, please consider subscribing, like and share my videos, and follow me on social media. I'll leave all the information for you in the description box below. So I'm a little late getting this video out. For those of you who missed my post in the community tab or on Facebook, we have been finishing our basement, and it's a project that we've been working on all winter, and we were finally got to the drywall part, and it was time for painting, which was my part of the project. So I was busy painting, and it turned into a bigger project than what I anticipated. So I do apologize for the delay in getting out this next video, but I'm thankful that I have time to get it done today. Most of the painting is done. I have a few little touch-up things, but I'm done with that, so I can concentrate on doing some of the other things that need to be done around my house and making videos for you. So today I'm excited to do this canning video for you. It's been a little while since we've done some canning. I do try to can something at least once a month, and it's been about a month since we canned something up, so it's time. So today we're going to be canning up Chipotle black beans. I did a test recipe on this a few months back, and my husband and I have really been enjoying them, and they're just really great. Beans are wonderful to have on your shelf, so I keep a variety of beans on hand, both dried and canned, with different flavorings added and just plain as well. They're just a great staple to have in your arsenal for a meal starter. Plus they're very nutritious and so good for you, so they're just great to have on hand. So for those of you who enjoy Mexican food like we do, we have Mexican usually once a week because it's something my husband and I both enjoy. You will love these beans. They're so good. We're going to be adding some lime juice and some fresh cilantro and chilies in adobo, so they'll have great flavor to them. And like I said, we've been making a delicious dip with them, and at the end of the video I'll show you how we do that. So just as a reminder, beans are a low acid food, so they must be pressure canned. You cannot water bath can beans. The other thing that I just want to point out is that it is not proven safe to can beans from a dried state, so I'm not going to do that. So, and I always get that question when I have a bean video, can I can these from a dried state? And my answer is no. It is not proven safe. I'll leave a link over here to a video I did regarding that issue, and it explains why it's not safe to do that. So we're going to follow all safe canning guidelines as always, and we are going to rehydrate our beans. Now you can do an overnight soak, or you can do what I like to do, which is a quick soak, and that's what I've done for this video. Is I sorted and rinsed my beans, and then I put them in a pot of water, covered them with water by about 2 to 3 inches, brought them up to a boil, boiled them for 2 minutes, and then turned the heat off, and I've been letting them sit with the lid on for the last hour. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain them and rinse them again, put them back in the pot, cover them with water again, and we're going to bring them up just to a boil. And then we're ready to start our canning. So while I do that, and while those are coming up to a boil, I'm going to get my other ingredients ready and my canner ready, so we'll be ready to can things up. Okay guys, we are all set. Like I said, I drained my soaking liquid off of my beans, rinsed them again, added liquid to cover by 2 inches, and brought them back up to a boil. So they are ready. You always want to hot pack dried beans. Just a couple other things. You always want to make sure that your jars are clean and hot. Modern canning guidelines state that you do not have to pre-sterilize lids and jars anymore if you're canning for 10 minutes or more, which we're going to be doing that. So just make sure your jars are nice and clean and your lids are nice and clean. The lids you can just set aside. Your jars you want to make sure are kept hot. I just keep mine in my sink full of really hot water so that they're nice and hot. And then for the beans. I know that this has been an issue because several of you have contacted me, and I've experienced it myself. Canning guidelines state that you can fill your jar to 1 inch headspace with your beans add liquid, again to 1 inch headspace, debubble, all that. As long as you have a 1 inch headspace, that's good. And that's true. But what I have found is that as my jars sit, my beans seem to continue to absorb liquid, and then they can become dry on top. So I'm going to go, I've learned, and a lot of this just has to do with your beans, how old they are, and the type of bean they are. Many factors can affect how much liquid they absorb as they sit. So I like to err on the side of caution. The discoloration that you may experience with your beans on top, it does not mean that they're bad. They've just been exposed to whatever air was still in the jar. So that makes them discolor and they don't look very appealing, but they're fine and totally safe to eat. But I don't particularly like that, so I've learned to err on the side of caution with beans, and I go fill them to about 1.5 inches. I give myself an extra 1/2 inch to make sure that they stay covered with liquid. So that's up to you. As long as you have your 1 inch headspace, that's totally within safe canning guidelines. I'm gonna go a little bit farther than that and say, and give myself 1.5 inches of headspace so that I can have the extra liquid. So here we go. So to each jar, we're gonna grab some jars here. I have used 2 pounds of dried black beans. That should give us 5 to 6 pint jars. Typically, out of 3/4 pound of beans, you get 2 pint jars or 1 quart jar. And I did 2 pounds, so we should get at least 5 jars, maybe even 6, we'll see. So I mentioned earlier the chilies and adobo. So just in case you're not familiar, they come in a can. Obviously you can can your own if you want to. I don't can them, I don't grow them. So I always buy this brand. This brand is really good, and they're just chili peppers in a delicious adobo sauce, and they're great for seasoning Mexican food. Really love them. But just a word of caution, they do have quite a bit of zip to them. So if you're concerned about them being too spicy for you, you can always cut, instead of putting a whole pepper in each jar, you can cut it in half or quarter it, however you feel. And they're all not necessarily all the same size. Some of them are bigger than others. So if you get a big one and you don't think you want all that in your jar, just go ahead and feel free to cut it down. But I'm going to use a whole pepper. I'm also going to be adding 1 tablespoon of fresh lime juice. You can use bottled if you prefer, but fresh juice is way better in my opinion. We're also going to be using some fresh garlic. I want 1 clove in each jar. And then we're also going to use 1 tablespoon of fresh cilantro. If you don't groove on cilantro, you can totally leave it out. It's just for flavor. Or you can use less, that's up to you. I'm gonna use about 1 tablespoon in each one of my jars, and I'm also going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Salt is also optional. So here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna use a slotted spoon to put my beans in my jars. And like I said, I'm going to give myself 1.5 inches of headspace instead of the 1 inch. Approximately. Looks pretty good. And then we are going to add 1 chili. We're going to add 1 clove of garlic. 1 tablespoon of lime juice. About 1 tablespoon of fresh cilantro. I'm just going to eyeball it. And then 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to add our liquid to the 1 inch headspace. And then I'm going to debubble. You can use a debubbling tool or you can use a chopstick. You can also use a plastic butter knife. Don't use anything metal. And we're just going to release the air bubbles. Just kind of go around your jar and poke around in there. Then center your lid. Oh, no, I'm wrong. Sorry. I hope I didn't confuse anyone. Before you place your lid, you're going to wipe the rim of your jar. We want the rim of our jar to be nice and clean so we get a good seal. I always use a paper towel dipped in white vinegar. And then we're going to center our lid. Add your rings to fingertip tight. And then we're going to lift them in our canner. I don't think I failed to mention you want to make sure you have 2 to 3 inches of simmering water in your canner. I use an All-American canner, but whatever instructions come with your canner, make sure you follow them. I have about 3 inches. Two more jars. Okay guys, I just want to make sure that I haven't confused you by changing the amount of beans that I put in my jar. So I just wanted to show you up close. See how this rim is about your 1 inch headspace, which is what we usually look for. But I'm giving myself a little bit of extra space. But after I add my other ingredients and then I add my liquid, you want your liquid to be up to this line. That's your 1 inch headspace. I'm just going below that with the amount of beans. Technically, you can do your beans all the way up to there, add your liquid to maintain the 1 inch, and that is correct. But like I said, I don't want my beans to be dry on top, so I'm just giving myself a little extra space. So I just wanted to clarify. I don't want to confuse anyone with canning. It's important to do it right. So anyway, okay guys, I got 7 pint jars out of the 2 pounds of beans. Probably the difference is I'm not filling the jars quite as full, but typically 3/4 of a pound will give you 2 pint jars, give or take, but I got 7 and that fills my canner, so I'm a happy girl. So now what I do is I take the vinegar that I used to clean my rims. There's about a couple tablespoons left. I add that to my water. We have minerals in our water that like to collect on the jars during the canning process, and I like for my jars to stay nice and sparkly clean. So if you add white vinegar to your water before you start your canning process, it will help your jars stay nice and clean, and none of the mineral deposits will collect on the outside of them. So that's why I do that. So now we can go ahead and add our lid. Like I said, I'm using the All-American canner, and you just want to line up your arrow with your notch. Try to get it as even as possible. And then you're going to tighten your thumb screws 2 at a time, opposites. Okay, so at this point I'm going to crank up my heat to high. And then once it comes up to temperature, we're going to see steam pouring out of our vent, and we want that to happen for 10 minutes. So after you vented for 10 minutes, then we can go ahead and apply our weight. We'll get it up to temperature, and once it starts rocking and rolling, we can start timing. Okay guys, I just wanted to bring you in close and show you what I mean about venting. Hopefully you can see there's steam pouring out of my vent, and that's what we're looking for, and we want that to happen for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we can put our weight on and wait for it to come up to pressure and then start timing. So I'll bring you back. Okay guys, it's time to put our weight on. I'm going to be canning at 10 pounds of pressure. We need to add our weight. Make sure you know what your altitude is, where you're at, what your altitude is determines what PSI you have to use. I'm below 1,000 feet, so I'm at 10 pounds of pressure. So we're gonna apply our weight. I have a dual gauge canner, so that means that I'm looking for 240 degrees, which is 10 to 11 pounds of pressure. And at that point, my weight will start rocking and rolling. Once your weight starts rocking and rolling, we can start timing. Okay guys, hear that? That means we're ready to start timing. So I'm gonna set my timer for 75 minutes. We want 75 minutes for pints. If you're canning in quarts, it'll be 90 minutes. The other thing I wanna mention is we do not want it rocking and rolling constantly. So you need to make sure you adjust your heat so that it rocks 1 to 3 times a minute and maintains that throughout the whole canning time. But we don't want it doing that much all the time. That's too high. So we need to turn it down. For me, that's about a medium heat on my stove, but you'll have to play with your stove to determine where you need to be. You just want it to rock, maintain a rock of 1 to 3 times a minute. And I will bring you back. Okay guys, our processing time is up, so I'm going to turn my heat off. We're going to let our canner return to 0 pressure naturally. And once it returns to 0 pressure, then we can remove the weight. After you remove the weight, you want to wait about 5 minutes, and then you can take the lid off, and then you're going to want to let your jars cool in your canner for about 10 minutes before you remove them. So I will bring you back. Okay guys, we are just about done here. When my canner returned to 0 pressure, I removed the weight. I waited about 5 minutes and then took the lid off my canner, and my jars have been sitting in my canner for the last 10 minutes. So now we're ready to take them out and take a look at our delicious black beans. You guys are gonna love these, I promise. Give you a close-up. Don't those look good? Yum, yum. Like I said, I did a test recipe a few months back, and we have been absolutely loving these. They'd be a great starter for black bean soup. You could use them as filling in a taco, a burrito. You could use them, you could drain them and use them to make black bean salsa. A million different ways you can use them, but if you tune in next time, in my next video, I'm going to share with you how we've been enjoying them, and that is making a cheesy black bean dip. It is just so good. We've enjoyed it so much, and it's really easy to do, but these are a perfect starter to making that dip. So tune in next time, and I'll show you how to do that, and you will love it. Your family will really enjoy it, and it would be great for parties. So one more tip that I have for you, if you have any of the Chipotle peppers left, what I like to do is I just stick them in a Ziploc freezer bag and pop them in my freezer, and then I have them for another meal. You're not gonna have a canning session bigger than what I had. You will have some left over unless you put more than 1 pepper in your jars. So it's just really convenient to just stick them in a Ziploc bag, and then the next time that you need the peppers for a recipe or for canning up more, you have them and they freeze really well. So just a little tip on that. That's pretty much it. If you have any comments or questions, as always, leave them for me in the comment section. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe to my channel. I would love for you to do that. Like and share my videos and follow me on social media, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.